genius at work. World snooker champion, John Higgins.
Hello, welcome to tonight's instalment of Snooker Live. After what seems an eternity, even though we're getting towards the end of day 13, at last we've reached the semi-final stage here at the Crucible, and those who follow snooker will know the Dapperbet World Championship takes on a whole new feeling and meaning when you get down to that one table setup. I've been joined again by Ivan Hershevitz, the chief guy in the press room. He's interrupted all his commitments to take some time out to talk to us about the first session of Ronnie against Barry Hawkins, and then in a little while we'll be reviewing that amazing piece of history from Neil Robertson. But first of all, let's talk about what we've seen and enjoyed this afternoon. Ronnie against Barry, a rerun of last year's final, and Ronnie's got a commanding lead there, 6-2, despite Barry starting well early on.
Yeah, I think Barry will be really disappointed to have finished 6-2 behind. He got off to a good start, he was 2-1 up, he looked to have settled down quite quickly. And then really in the next 5 frames, he missed chances. He had a couple of kicks at the wrong moments, which was really unfortunate, but he didn't take the chances. Ronnie went now 6-2 ahead, won 5 frames in a row. Again, without playing at his best. You know, we saw flashes, we saw a nice century break. But I think Barry will really feel, you know, as we've seen against Shaw Murphy, if you're going to you can beat Ronnie, but you've got to take all your chances. And I think Barry will feel now 6-2 behind, that's a long way back.
Well, it's such a mirror of the start of the Murphy match, with Murphy winning the first 2, Ronnie requiring a snooker in the third, which he eventually got, and then he was on a roll. But I guess Barry's got to tell himself that he won the Players' Championship in Preston recently, picked up 100,000. He's playing the best snooker of his career, and people tend to forget O'Sullivan was so good in the final last year, we almost forgot how well Hawkins played in that final at times. So he's proven here on the one table setup already that he can produce great snooker against Ronnie in huge matches.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and he's got to approach it tomorrow fresh and forget about the fact that he's 6-2 behind. It's a long match, you know, best of 33 frames. There is plenty of time to come back. But I think Barry will feel, you know, he almost went out last night against Dominic Dale. So, you know, it's a great achievement for him to get to the semi-finals again. You know, he's earned a big check already, but, you know, he'll try and put all that out of his mind and just focus on the next 8 frames. If he can win the next session 5-3, it's back to 9-7 and he's back in the match.
Well, Ronnie and Barry resume tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. It will, of course, be live on the BBC, every frame of every session from now on the BBC and on Eurosport. So that's how the first of the semi-finals has started. Let's rewind to last night and that amazing ton of tons from Neil Robertson. We thought we'd luxuriate in the moment and just show you the last few pots of what was an incredible moment in Crucible history. And considering how close he got twice in the last 4 frames against Mark Allen, we were starting to wonder whether Robbo would actually get this magic milestone. This red in particular, so tough.
Yeah, this is a great shot on the red, and after that he only needed the black, the yellow and the green to complete it. But I think a lot of people were surprised at his reaction afterwards, at how the exuberance of the celebration. And I think the reason for that is that this had been building up for weeks and months. You know, he's been going for it for certainly the second part of the season. Of course, he missed those 2 great chances to do it at the end of the match against Mark Allen. And I think, you know, then he's gone 6-2 behind against Trump, and he's wondering, am I going to finish on 99? And he admitted in his press conference last night he would have been absolutely devastated to have not done it. So after all that build-up, I think that's why we saw such a celebration from Neil. It was relief more than anything to have finally achieved it.
I went into the arena. I know you probably shouldn't do that, but it was just such an amazing moment. And when this went down, the roar from the crowd and the standing ovation was incredible. And it's great to see players showing so much emotion on something that will be remembered forever.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Neil said afterwards in an interview with you, he said he felt it was the greatest moment he'd ever experienced at the Crucible, putting it ahead even of winning the World Championship for the first time. I suppose just that sudden immediacy of the moment when he'd finally achieved it, it was incredible, really.
And the other thing that we shouldn't forget about is the context in which he secured the ton of tons. That was to draw level again at 11 all. So, I mean, what a shot in the arm going into the last few frames of the match.
Yeah, I think we felt at the time it could go either way. You know, it could have either inspired him in the last couple of frames, or it could have distracted him. You know, you sometimes see a player make a 147 and lose the match, or in golf, you see players make hole-in-ones and then bogey the next 3 holes, you know. But he came out of the arena, he took a couple of minutes in his dressing room to refocus, and then when he went back in there, he was probably kept on playing the best snooker that he played in the match, and in the end he won the last 5 frames to beat Trump 13-11.
It almost seemed when he came out, so we got great images of the handshake at the end and the celebrations. It almost seemed as though he was playing with a little weight off his shoulders, having done the ton of tons. And all credit to Judd Trump. He raced ahead early on in that match, as you said, 6-2. But I suppose when you've got someone playing with that level of confidence, having just achieved something so special, really tough to come back and get a win against Robbo in that context. Yeah,
and Judd was again a little bit unlucky. I think he felt a couple of times there were a couple of noises from the crowd at the wrong moments, which he felt put him off, especially Mr. Black in the last frame of the last with 1 red left when he had a chance to go 12 all. But I'm sure Judd will be gutted to lose. Just want to make one point about Trump. Well, after Robertson's celebration for the ton of tons, a lot of people were kind of criticising Judd for not shaking his hand at the time, but I felt that was unfair. I think, you know, they were still playing in the match. It was 11-all. He wanted to remain focused on the match. He said he would have shaken his hand if it had been a 1-4-7, and obviously they shook hands at the end. There was no hard feelings between them. So I think the criticism levelled at Trump on that occasion was quite unfair.
And there was an exchange between them at the end of the match, a positive, pleasant exchange where he wished Neil well for the semi-final. So important to remember that as well. Well, as Neil came off, there was one burning issue on his mind. He wanted to find out, I think we're going to play you this clip and you'll be able to hear the audio. He wanted to find out how Chelsea got on.
3-1.
Head bowed there from Neil, and then in the dressing room he let slip just how important it would have been for him. I'm sure it was partly tongue-in-cheek for Chelsea to get to the final. Listen to this.
Oh dear. I would have traded in the 100 centuries if Chelsea won today.
Well, he's a huge Chelsea fan. It's so funny that he's come off the stage on a moment of history, and his first question to you is, what's the score against Atletico Madrid?
Yeah, I think that shows 2 things. Firstly, how important football is to him, and secondly, how focused he was during the match, that he'd obviously told everybody, even during the interval when he came out, not to mention the score to him, because he just wanted to stay focused. But yeah, he was definitely joking what he said afterwards in the dressing room. He got asked about that afterwards, and he said, yeah, obviously the century of centuries meant more to him than anything.
Well, after we got Judd Trump in, who was gracious in his post-match press conference, there was only one man left to talk to last night. The main man, the man of the moment, the history maker, the break builder. We caught up with Robbo after his historic exploits.
Well, Neil, what an incredible match for so many reasons. A wonderful comeback, an incredible century of centuries, and then to book your place in the semi-final with that kind of contest. A day you'll remember for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the most amazing matches I've ever been involved in. It was in some ways kind of very similar to when I played Martin Gould, you know, a few years ago. The last time I won it, you know, I wasn't quite as far behind, but it was the first session where, you know, I just had an absolute nightmare where you know, nothing was really going right. Judd was playing well, and I just couldn't settle, and yeah, I just bogged myself down. I was playing too slowly and found no rhythm whatsoever, and you know, 6-2 probably could have been 7-1. You know, so that was a big it was a big difference there. I think I did a good clearance to go 5-2. Even though I lost the next frame, I was still quite happy to be only 6-2 down. You know, because it could have been a lot worse. So then, you know, I came out this afternoon and played pretty solid stuff. Still played too slowly, still way too slow. And you know, Joe Perry texted me. He said, like, "What are you doing? Like, quicken up! Like, this is just ridiculous. Like, you know, you got to play faster. You know, play faster, play positive." And yeah, so you know, tonight I try to play much quicker. I try to get in, score, play my own game. You know, I was just I was a little bit self-conscious of the century of centuries. You know, I was just maybe trying to get in and get the breaks happening a bit too perfect. So I just let myself play tonight, and you know, I put him under some enormous pressure. I was playing really well, and you know, made some, you know, a really crucial clearance. I think at I think maybe 6. I don't know what it was. It was to get within one frame. I think, or maybe 7-5 or 6-4 or something like that. But it was a big clearance where, you know, I reduced the gap to a couple of frames instead of maybe going 4 or 5 behind. So yeah, it was yeah, just an unbelievable night.
You seem to have an ability to stay calm when you're behind in a really important match. To take aside for a moment the ton of tons, that was a Crucible quarter-final for a place in the semis, and yet even though you were trailing by 4, there was a calmness about your game. There wasn't a sense of panicking. Is that difficult to keep that level of control?
Yeah, I mean, tonight it was all about sort of how I played and how, you know, I wanted to approach the match. It's how I should have started the match, but I was just, you know, it was only when a friend told me my shot time was around up to 30 seconds, you know, that I realised like where the problem was lying, and yeah, the slowest I played in the match was the furthest I was behind. So it was clear that I had to pick things up and put him under pressure because, you know, although it could frustrate him playing that slow, it doesn't suit me. I don't want to play slow snooker. You know, I've had enough of that. You know, I want to try and win, you know, in an attractive manner, which I have done this season. Yeah, it was, you know, I felt really confident tonight. I was putting him under pressure. I'd done a really good clearance. Yeah, and then to make the century to go 11-all, that was, you know, I was in such a positive frame of mind. I was in the same frame of mind 11-all, well, even 11-10 as I was the last 4 frames against Mark Allen. I was that focused. You know, I just my concentration was brilliant, and I was just thinking, just one chance, win the frame, just one chance, win the frame, and you're in the semi-finals.
Just give us an indication as to what the great moment was like from your perspective, because there were a few of us from the press room who ran in to get a glimpse of history in the making, which is exactly what it was, and to do it on the green, it was a standing ovation. It looked amazing from our perspective. What was it like being you in that moment?
Yeah, it was definitely the best feeling I've ever experienced inside the Crucible. You know, I think.
So even better than winning the championship.
Yeah, it was, because I mean, winning the championship, obviously it was a really long match and we finished quite late. But in terms of a moment, you know, that was definitely it. You know, I've been inside the Crucible when a 147's been made, and I've never heard it that loud before. And you know, my reception from the crowd. I mean, obviously you let them know that I was on 99, and
yeah, sorry about that.
For the last 4 sessions, I've been on 99. Yeah, the standing ovation I got when I did it was brilliant, and when I came back in as well, it was incredible, and you know, I had a lot of people sort of supporting me, which was really nice, and you know, it goes to show, I think, that the crowd really appreciated the snooker I played tonight, because Judd's such a fantastic player, but you know, I still had a lot of people supporting me.
I suppose the equivalent, if I can go that far back in history, it's the Roger Bannister moment. Many people have now run a sub 4-minute mile, but he was the first, and there might be many people who do a ton of tons in the future, but you're the number 1 on the list.
Yeah, that's right. That's what my dad said to me. He said, you know, you're sort of annoying me a little bit. He goes, "Oh yeah, you're on 68 now." I'm like, "Yeah, just shut up. Let me just concentrate. Let me do it." You know, and. Yeah, he was. Yeah, my dad said the same thing. He said that Roger Bannister was the first man to do it, and then you know, he goes, "I couldn't tell you who the 8th guy was, but I know he was the first." And you know, so I mean, I'm sure more players will probably get to 100, and yeah, it's just that it's a great feeling that, you know, where my break building was, you know, a couple of years ago, to be the first player to get to 100 is, you know, a really proud achievement for me.
You mentioned your family in the press conference, and you just mentioned your dad. Was your dad in there for that tonight?
No, he wasn't. No, they just arrived 7:30 tonight, so I haven't seen them yet. And yeah, obviously can't wait to see him. You know, my dad's, you know, he's come to. I think he flew over when I was defending champion. I lost first round. He flew over, I think, last year in anticipation I'd at least get through a round or 2, and I'd already lost by the time he got here. Yeah, so you know, for me to be able to walk out at the one table setup, you know, with my dad in there will be, you know, an incredible moment for me, because you know, being overseas, an overseas player, it's obviously more difficult. You know, if you live in England, your family just drive a couple of hours down the road and they're here. So, you know, it's a lot of timing, a lot of things have to go right, and yeah, I'm just glad that, you know, my mum could see me play, and now my dad does as well.
Well, let's talk about the one-table setup. It's going to be a tough one against Mark Selby. You don't expect any easy rides when it comes to a Crucible semi-final. You've been there before, you've won before, but what are your thoughts about that one? It could be a long one.
No, it won't be. I won't allow it to get scrappy or anything like that. It will be very similar to sort of the second half of the UK Championship final. You know, Mark doesn't want frames to go scrappy either. You know, he's a fantastic break builder as well. It's just sometimes that's the way it goes. Like there's no way I intended to play slow at the start of this match and in certain parts of my match with Mark Allen. You know, I don't intend to do that at all. It's just sometimes when you can try too hard. So I think it's probably the same case with Mark. But I think people will probably be surprised. I think it'll be a pretty open game. You know, he's going to attack me. I mean, you can't. You know, it's very hard to grind someone out over 4 sessions. You know, so yeah, I just have to play my game, try and get going, and yeah, and give him a great game.
Well, enjoy catching up with your family this evening. You've created history today. Onwards to the semi-finals. Well done.
Cheers, Rob.
Well, quite a long interview there. Thank you for your patience, but we thought it was worth letting it run the full 7.5 minutes or so just to get the reflections of Neil last night and ahead of the first session of that semi-final against Mark Selby, which as we speak is somewhat 33 minutes away from getting started. He's got the monkey off his back, if you like, with the ton of tons, and he said himself there he doesn't think this match against Mark Selby will be particularly slow. He thinks it could be you know, some quick breaks being generated. It's a mouth-watering match. I guess you'd expect nothing less from a semi-final, but two guys right at the top of the world's rankings. Robbo's going to be flying high after last night, and Mark Selby, no disrespect to Alan McManus, had a relatively straightforward passage into the semis, so he's going to come out tonight fairly fresh. Yeah,
I mean, what a great semi-final lineup it is for the top 5 seeds in the semi-finals. You know, that's brilliant. But yeah, it is going to be a really fascinating match. A repeat, of course, of the UK Championship final when Robertson was 5-1 behind, came back to win 10-7. Of course, this is a lot longer match, so I'm sure we'll see the match going one way and then the other over the 4 sessions. Yeah, I think the pace of play is going to be interesting. I genuinely think they're both players who want to play quickly and want to get on with it. Sometimes they both get bogged down, and I think they don't even realise, you know, that their average shot time goes up. But hopefully it'll be a high quality and fast moving match. Yeah, I felt that Selby, certainly in the second session against McManus, played probably the best snooker I've seen him play this season. He's very consistent. He's been in the final of the UK and the Masters, now the semis of the world. I think it's going to be very, very close and hopefully a really, really good match.
Do you think Selby sometimes gets unfairly labelled as a little bit of a grinder because, you know, people need to remember that amazing 147 in York? I think that was the 100th professional 147 finished off in such style with that black to middle left. He's got great moments in his locker. It's not all about slow grinding frames that people sometimes talk about with him.
Oh, not at all. I mean, he can knock in big breaks with the best of them. You know, he's made more than 50 centuries in the season before. You know, and as you say, that 147, you know, he's a very, very skillful player. But I think he plays a different game. He's a great safety player. He plays to his strengths, and he sometimes plays, you know, bouts of containing safety where he tries to frustrate the other players. You know, nothing wrong with that. And I think snooker is about a clash of styles. You know, if every player was knocking in big breaks all the time, it would probably get boring. You know, it's good to see players mixing it up.
Well, it's got all the makings of a classic semi-final. Thanks for now, Ivan. We better get going because the play will be getting underway in around about half an hour, and I don't really think I'm going to have to do any work at all to whip the crowd up tonight. They will be absolutely ready to give these two guys a massive reception. England against Australia in this second semi-final. It's all to play for. Two world-class players, Mark Selby against Neil Robertson, coming up live on the BBC in around about half an hour. That's it from us for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow tea time. In the meantime, bye-bye for now.